Welcome to Building Web3. Today we dive into how to build a successful Web3 startup with Andre. We'll explore dev shops, how to launch a DeFi dApp, developer trends, and the pros and cons of building in-house versus outsourcing to an agency. Remember, nothing stated here is financial advice. Welcome to the Building Web3 Podcast. Today I have my good friend Andre here. He's the CEO of My Web3 Startup, a dev shop focusing on building development for Web3 companies. Andre, could you give us a brief introduction into yourself and what were you doing before you stumbled upon Web3?
Yeah, of course. So I'm 22 years old, and I started this agency around 3.5 years ago. And the reason that I started it was because, as a lot of let's say young kids that are ambitious wanted to start a business, right? Try dropshipping, try e-commerce, but there's only one thing that I was really good at, which is development, right? I was studying data science and AI. I had been coding since I was 15, 16. So that was really the only thing that I was good at. I was pretty bad at everything else, especially anything business related. So then I said, why don't I just start off doing some development projects for others? And the Web3 space was quite hyped. I knew a bit about crypto from just trading and investing. And started building stuff, building tech on, and in the crypto space, and just took off from there. More and more people asked for it. I was good at what I did, and it just grew exponentially.
Absolutely. So let's get into Web3. And, we talked about drop shipping. We talked about other kind of agency business models. Usually, in my experience, many technical founders, people that have AI, data science backgrounds, often struggle with the sales, the marketing. Where did you find kind of some of the difficulty there? Was it difficult getting teammates, or were you kind of working as a solo person initially?
Yeah, so I found many challenges, a ton of them, a ton of blockers, a ton of barriers. The main ones were, as you said, related to marketing and client acquisition mainly. I was lucky. I was very, very lucky that I was in a space that was booming, so it didn't take much to get clients or find clients. I just have to be good at what I was, at what I did, which was blockchain development, Web2 development, and clients would search for these good developers, which there weren't many at that time, and I still think in today's day and age there are many quality Web3 developers. So it was just very natural and organic process to get clients. Now, when I looked to scale, is when I found most difficulties. One, on just finding more and more clients, especially in a bear market, and two, finding other quality developers that I can then hire to execute these services for our clients.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to keep pulling on this thread. So where did you go about finding blockchain developers? You find yourself in X and Farcaster, just messaging people? I assume it's a very difficult problem.
Yeah, extremely difficult. And I think we need to differentiate first between types of blockchain developers, because blockchain as a whole, a lot of people don't know this, but it's very, very broad in terms of tech. There's so many different stacks and so many different levels of complexity of blockchain developers. Right, you have the basic dApp applications, like NFT collections or token ICOs or staking, basic DeFi, basic DEXs and stuff like that, which is what the majority of the people in this space know, and really the majority of the services that we offer, because it's what most people want. But then there's obviously a lot more niche style developers that are on a specific blockchain that's using a specific language. So it's very broad. That's what we need to understand first, right? Not every blockchain developer is made equal. A lot of people confuse, he's a blockchain developer, so he must know, and then they name some obscure blockchain that nobody's heard of, right? And then, so the way I went about it was just brute force. At the beginning, I wasn't very experienced, so I just suppose that I post something on LinkedIn, I must find somebody, right? I must find somebody. And then a lot of unqualified people came through. Not a lot of people either, maybe less than 50 candidates. Interviewing them, hours and hours, days, weeks, months went by, and it was just so hard to find somebody of high quality. And then I just had to go through it. I had to stop going through the motions and just brute force it. On every platform that I can find, make a list of 50 different platforms where you can hire developers, where developers can be, posting it there, messaging people, even on freelancer platforms like Upwork, posting in my network, my community, asking friends, asking other dev agency owners if they knew anybody. Basically, I tried everything there was to try, and then I would find maybe 1, 2, 3 people to to hire and try out. And even then, it was a lot of trial and error. I hired and fired a lot of people.
And did you find you had to train people up? Like, for example, I used to work at Google. I was an AI engineer there. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I could probably figure out smart contracts. But I assume you either have people that aren't that familiar with the Web3 space and you have to train them up, or people that say they're, Web3 engineers, then you actually get into the meat of it and you're like, you're not particularly good at this.
Yeah. I did have to train people up, but to various degrees. And what I noticed worked best was splitting up the different roles and just hiring for a specific tech stack or specific specialty. Right before, at first, I started looking for this generalist full stack Web3 developer, Next, Node, React, Stability, Rust, and basically somebody that does everything. Obstacle. But then as I kept going, I noticed how important it was to really specialize.
Yeah, there's this funny meme, and maybe I'll have my editor put it in here. And it's like, do you work on the front end? It's a tech interviewer. It's like, do you work on the front end or the back end? The person says full stack, and they say, okay, good at nothing.
That's exactly what I found as well in most cases.
Yeah. So for people that aren't as familiar with the development background, so there's front end, that would be like the pretty UIs you would see if you went on the Twitter homepage, you would see all like the buttons to click. And then there's the back end. These are more of the databases. So would you say when you're building a project, is there a specific split that you need? Do you need like one front end person, two back end people, or is it completely dependent on whatever blockchain you're working on?
I think it varies from product to product. What I see that is really useful is that every team member, even if they're not completely full stack, they at least understand the different parts of the stack so that we can coordinate with the other developers. I feel like that's very, very useful. But usually the way that I structure my projects is in small core groups, right, where we have one or two UX UI designers, depending on if we need some sort of like an animated website or anything like that, where one of them works more on the animations, works more on for the video assets, the branding assets, and the other one is actually just putting together the layouts. Then we need usually one or two front-end developers, depending on the complexity. That's not only to do the UI, for the UI, but the most important part is just integrating it with the smart contracts on that front. So establishing the wallet connection, sending transactions to the blockchain, receiving blockchain data, and all that good stuff that's usually really fun comes in. Sometimes I have something specifically for the UI and something specifically to integrate the blockchain data. On the back end, I don't know why it's usually just one person. Maybe it's because there's a lot of logic going on, and I like to stick to one person sort of handling and masterminding all of that. But on some projects we've had multiple backend developers. And then the projects that do need some sort of blockchain aspect, usually smart contract aspect, I like to have only one smart contract developer as well. And then finally, just to set up all the architecture and launch, we have just one DevOps that person's all that up.
Absolutely. And I think which will make this a little bit easier for the listeners to understand. Have you had a project you worked on recently where you could kind of walk through how it all works? Because we might have people that are aspiring to be founders, but are not necessarily technical. And they want to know like, hey, from start to finish, if I'm launching this DeFi lending protocol, do I need to focus on like how many smart contracts underpin it? What kind of integrations do we need?
Yeah, of course. The most recent project that comes to mind is Play Shutdown. Um, so Play Shutdown. Basically, what we had to put together for them is an NFT collection. So that had its respective mint page and smart contract, and then we had to do a NFT staking platform and a social farming platform. Right. So let me try to walk through this step by step in a digestible manner. So the first part, the NFT collection, which is very typical. So many different projects do this. Just you really want to keep the mint page simple. We need to put together a design for that. A front end developer to put together that site, and then the front end developer also needed to create the wallet connections and the integration with the NFT collection smart contract to allow people to mint. So that was on the NFT collection side. Quite straightforward. For the staking side of things and the social farming side of things, basically what we wanted to allow as a sort of way to generate hype and traction around this product, which is something I really recommend for anybody that's launching a Web3 startup to use sort of these strategies to generate hype and traction around this project momentum is we want to reward users for first buying the NFT, as buying or just acquiring the NFT for free, staking the NFT so as to not list it, not sell the NFT, right, to drive the floor price up, and in turn they would get daily or weekly points for having that NFT staked, and then they can complete social quests, on-chain quests, or any other sort of tasks we define to gain more and more points. So we sort of created a gamified system where they could get more points, and then obviously once the project point shutdown launches their token, once they have the TG event, they can then redeem those tokens for the points that they've earned over time. So to put the system together, we had to do the UX UI design for this whole platform, which is just like a simple dashboard that shows a leaderboard of who has what points, explains to you how you can complete the task, shows the NFTs that you saved and all that good stuff. The front end development, we're just decoding this into React.js. We didn't have any smart contracts here. It was all off-chain. So no smart contracts here that underpinned it. And then a backend system that basically just handles all of these off-chain points, distributes them on a daily or weekly basis, checks if somebody has completed a task. An example of a task is like this post on Twitter, follow us on Twitter, right? So you can see how they can farm engagement from that, which is quite interesting for these projects.
Absolutely. So let me try to summarize. So we have a minting page. There's a wallet connection. This allows you to interact with the NFT smart contract in order to mint. Once you have the underlying NFT, you can stake it so you can get additional rewards. So you don't want people to crash into floor price. Essentially, the floor price, for anyone unfamiliar, if you go on something like OpenSea or Blur, it is the minimum price. It seems like the minimum price which you can buy one NFT. So it's pretty much the cheapest NFT on the market. And then you have a points dashboard so that people are accumulating points. This is very common for like airdrops nowadays, is they'll have, I think, really popularized by Blast and Blur. They had these like points where you did certain tasks and you were able to get more points for an airdrop. It really built up hype for the underlying protocol. Now, were these Galaxy quests or were these like just specific actions?
Yeah, so we actually created a customized dashboard within their platform. So we just put it on a subdomain that they had instead of using a third-party service like Galaxy.
And for people unfamiliar, Galaxy is like this, we'll call it like a social questing platform where people can get points and they can get like qualifications for airdrops, NFTs, things like that. It's very common in the marketing sphere. Now you're talking about, kind of building up hype for these new projects. Now, you as being kind of more of the dev agency, are you guys advising on the marketing of these new projects? Or are you largely like, hey, we focus on the coding, we'll give you some advice here and there, but we do the coding?
Yeah, I believe in focusing to one's domain, to one's expertise. So we don't explicitly offer marketing services. It's all tech side. That's what I know. That's what I'm good at, and that's what I can deliver on. That's what the team can deliver on. With that said, one, we obviously have partners in the space just because of the reputation that we have and over years of experience. You end up forming those relationships with people that are also really good at the marketing side of things. And two, something that we pride ourselves on is just staying up to date with trends, right? So you have to think that we live and breathe Web3. Like it's a daily thing for the team. So we're very locked in on what's happening, what's trendy, what's working, what's not working. And that's one of, I think, the largest value adds that we have, right? We're not just a dev agency that, okay, tell us what you want to build, we build it, okay, bye, it's over, and you figure out what you're supposed to do. But we constantly advise or recommend potential features that you can add, right? From what we see from other clients that are having successful projects, and that could work for you as well.
Absolutely. And let's talk about some of the trends that you see, because you're really on the front lines. You're seeing the things that are getting developed. You're getting feedback from users. I assume all these apps are like pixeled, so where people are rage quitting and things like that. So what are some of the trends that are big in the development sphere these days? Like we talked about points dashboards, for example.
Yeah, I would say any sort of point reward system for users is probably the number one request we're having right now in different ways, right? It could be through NFT staking, it could be through token staking, it could be from social quests. But really, the reason why it's so trendy is because at first it has a flywheel effect where, for example, within our coin systems, not only can users accumulate points with whatever tasks we define within the platform, but they also have a referral code that they can share. So they're incentivized to push that out. Their friend gets it, they see the task, they start interacting with the platform, they want to push that out, and it just creates this flywheel effect. So that's one way. That's one reason why it's so trendy. But the second reason is because your marketing costs, your marketing dollars aren't being allocated to this as heavily as something like paid ads, right? Paid media. You're basically the users are basically fronting their engagement to then receive rewards afterwards, right? So you only have to pay them out. Let's say pay for the marketing once you launch your token and you're exchanging the points that they've accumulated for the token. But even then, even if you're giving them money, you're giving money back to your users for engaging with your platform. You're doing it in the form of the token, which you have control over the supply, right? You can control the tokenomics there, you can control the vesting period. So it isn't like you're going into your bank account and paying people out. You're using the token, which they hyped up for you, which is why it's at its value that it is today. So it's sort of this Uno reverse card that works very well.
Yeah, there's a term, I won't say it, but it's very interesting. It's kind of like your government at the end of the day. Like you print the dollars that people
Yeah.
get paid in, and then you get to tax it on any given time. So it's very interesting. So you've worked on a lot of high profile projects. Can you talk about some of the success stories that your team has accomplished, and what was it like to launch specific projects?
Yeah, I mean, I would want to define success here for two reasons. One, because as you probably know, in the Web3 space, there's a lot of gray areas, a lot of projects that aren't the greatest. And I don't love seeing because it just harms the industry's reputation and its sustainability in the long term. But we have worked on projects for clients where they might have had gotten monetary success, but really they didn't provide any value to the marketplace or to their users. And then they thought, okay, we have the money, we made the money from the users, we no longer have to provide value. So, okay, we don't want to develop anything anymore when they initially promised us that, they wanted to build this feature and that feature to bring value to their community to help their users. And then ultimately they just decided to step away. Step away is a nice way of saying it.
Yeah,
There's another term in the Web3 space for that, but I
yeah.
won't say it.
I'll say it. It's called Rug Pull.
There was actually a project that we worked on, that their name was Vote Pool, but like Rug Pool, Pool, and it was just a dashboard where users would invest. They would put money into, and then they would in turn get that money invested into the crypto market and then provide returns to their users. So already on the legal side, I don't know how feasible that is or how correct that is. U.S. based as well, just so you know.
Ooh, wow. Even
So I don't
harder.
know. Yeah, exactly. I warned them. I don't know if this. I don't know if you're allowed to do this. But yeah, it ended up being a rug pull without the PULL. So it was definitely a lot of products like that in this space that you have to be wary of.
Can you talk about, so when we interviewed Jacek from DGen, he talked about the difficulties in launching a new token where he's like, okay, well, I had to fund this Uniswap liquidity pool. Then they give you an NFT. And he's like, fortunately, I was doxxed. So like people, because we were talking about how do you assuage people and be like, hey, I'm not going to steal all your money. I'm not. It's a very difficult. So have you found a way where you can essentially like help founders be like, I'm not going to rug pull you. I'm going to like actually be a good steward of this capital.
Yeah, there are a few different mechanisms that you can use and that you can advise on. Nothing is perfect because there's always ways around it, especially on a technical level. There's always ways around these promises to the community. But usually when you launch token, people are very wary of growth tools now. Um, for token launches, especially the coin launches. So they're always going to look to renounce the ownership of the contract. That's going to be number one, and that appears on Dex Screener, Dex Tools. You're going to want to lock the liquidity pool. You don't want to have any function within the smart contract that allows you to withdraw or to mint any new tokens. I mean, all in all, you just don't want to do anything that can be picked up by any auditor or token sniffer or anything like that. You want to be as hands off and as transparent as possible to the community, whether that's with third party audits, verifying the contract sharing with the community, and just not adding too much complexity to the token smart contract. You want to keep it as basic as possible. Where you want to do the complex stuff is actually the actual product you build afterwards for the community.
Yeah, I assume you guys have just general SOPs. It's like, hey, if we're launching a token, let's say it's some kind of meme coin, it's going to be the Jax token, and what's kind of the step by step that you guys go through when like I approach you with a project and you're like, okay, what do you ask the client? Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, so for each type of project, service package, however you want to name it, there's a process that we follow or like base questions that we have to go through. Specifically for tokens, it usually is around the tokenomics of it. So first of all, what type of token is this? Is this a meme coin? Is this a utility token? Is this going to be for your DAO? Is this going to be whatever the purpose of the objective of the token? That's the first thing that we want to know. And from there, we usually scope out the tokenomics if they haven't done so already. So it makes sense. This usually consists in checking out competitors that are within the same space as them or trying to do something similar to them, seeing obviously the most recent trends, most recent successful tokens and what they're doing with their tokenomics, and just mashing that up together along with this product objective. We usually come up with something, right? So the vesting schedules, the distributions, what's going to look good to the community in terms of transparency, right? You never want to put 50% of supplies going to go to the team with a no lockup period and no vesting, right? So we just consult them on that as we have more experience. They haven't launched as many tokens or none at all. And go through that process. And then that's when we actually go into development of a smart contract, which is usually the quickest fit. The most complicated bit going back and forth and making sure we're aligned and it makes sense to us, but also to the community or investors if they're looking to raise funds on a financial economic level.
So if I can summarize for the audience, so it seemed like we're asking what's the utility of the token, and that's going to essentially dictate the kind of tokenomics we want to go through. Then we want the transparency of the token distribution, so that 50% of the tokens aren't getting released to the employees immediately. Features, and then kind of like a competitor analysis. I guess the competitor analysis before the features, but seem about right.
Yeah, that seems about right. Just to summarize it again, I would say competitor analysis, knowing the objective of the token and the team, checking out the recent trends, using that to mash up all the tokenomics. And when you're doing tokenomics, you want to focus on mainly distribution and the vesting schedules, and that it makes sense in relation to the economic model. So you don't want, let's say you have the team distribution, marketing, airdrop, and staking. You don't want all those to release 6 months from now and have like a 60% token increase supply altogether, because that's just going to create self-measurement, basically.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, because we talked about you had some hiring issues, and I think probably many founders are going to be like, well, hey, we'd love to work with Andre, but maybe you're at max capacity. How does someone go about finding a good Web3 development agency? And like, what are the kind of the criteria you look for in evaluating these kinds of agencies or dev shops?
It's quite difficult, and I understand. Just to give you some stats here, we actually keep record of all the clients that come to us and say, hey, we've been burned in the past by a dev team. We really don't want that to happen again. We need this assurance, this assurance, this assurance, and so on and so forth. And last time I checked, it was around the 70 to 80% range of past clients that said they've been burned before by a developer in any of their past projects. Might not have been this one. I just they have a bad experience with a developer in the past. And I think it was something like 40-50% of them was on this specific project that they're working on. So they're bringing the code to us half done because they had a bad experience and they decided to close out that engagement. I just wanted to start off giving some perspective that it's very normal to have these experiences, and if there's one decision you can really focus on and try to make correctly when you're building a Web3 startup is who the dev is or who the dev shop is. So that on a technical level, you're safe and you can actually launch and build your product. I can't emphasize this enough. In terms of what characteristics you should look for is first the how much time and importance they put in to understanding your vision, to clarifying your vision, and really getting a grasp on everything. I see a lot of developers, they get maybe you send them over some documentation or a message on what you're looking to build, and at first glance, like, yeah, I can build this. Let's start. This is my hourly rate, and let's go for it. But this is what you should definitely not the person you should go for. You know, if they're not asking to get on a call or a series of calls, or at least putting together a document with a ton of questions, because there's a lot of nuance in development that technical people don't quite understand, right? And most founders aren't technical, so they might not understand the nuance of development. There's so many different details, small edge cases, small things that need to be clarified, that need to be questioned before you can even start development. So that's red flag number one. They're not asking enough questions. They're not putting together documentation. They're not planning everything out for you, the milestones, the deliverables, just your technical architecture of how to build the platform that you're looking to build. Big red flag. Okay. That's probably number one. That if I had to do like an 80-20, that would be the most important thing. Two, just the obvious of checking the case studies, past projects, especially projects that are relevant to what you're building, and competitor projects. Because like I said, blockchain is very broad. So they might have worked in blockchain, but to completely separate tech stacks, which are not relevant to what you're looking to build. That's quite important. And then just the general communication, right? I think developers aren't usually the greatest at communication. Just for technical types, we're a bit more introverted. But if the developer really stresses the importance of it, or at least the product manager on a dev agency is continuously looking to keep you in the loop, so you know what's happening, what's being built, where we're at, any blockers that we've found, and so on and so forth. That's a key in play.
So we talked about a little bit about the tech stack. So do you find that most dev agencies, like including your own, are focused specifically on like, hey, I'm a Solana dev shop, or hey, I'm a EVM compatible dev shop? Or do people largely do across the board and they might focus on a few blockchains?
What I've found and what we do as well at times, depending on how niche the request is that usually dev shops focus on one sector, at least that's their specialization. For us, it's mostly anything EVM. So that's Ethereum, Binance, Polygon, Avalanche, so on and so forth. We focus on building dApps on those ecosystems. We do have developers that know Solana, and we also build stuff on Solana. But I would say that's our specialization, right? Because I would say 90% of our projects we work on is on EVM. And then there's a small percentage which are on other ecosystems that we're not as specialized in. We might have done 1-2 projects there. We might have outsourced to an external developer. And I find most agencies are like that. They focus on one and then either outsource or sort of wing it on these projects that are a bit more niche.
Got it. And when you're talking to like a founder, let's say you're in the shoes of a Web3 founder, do you think most startups should outsource their development work to a dev shop or start building an in-house team? And like, what kind of factors do you think should influence that decision?
So here's the thing. The cost of building an in-house team is insane. It's very, very high, especially for early founders that are bootstrapped, that are pre-seed or seed, and at lower levels, right? They're not institutional or huge VC clients. have put money into them, which is the case for 98% of Web3 founders, right? They don't have the access to this capital. So building an in-house team is almost impossible or very, very hard to do so. You don't only have the costs, the salary, right? Which blockchain developers are quite high on the salary total. Um, but as apart from that, you'll also just the time you invest in finding quality blockchain developers. Like I said, I spent hundreds of hours interviewing, looking for quality people for my team, and I know a thing or two about blockchain. If you're a solo founder, you're new to the space, it's going to take you a long time to find something that's quality um, as well. And then you might have depending on if you live in the U.S. and then you have like payroll, social security, all that, or you're going to a hiring firm, or you have to have some software to manage the team, to do all the project management, wherever you want to do that. There's a lot of like small hidden costs that you would never think of for having somebody in house. So for most people, a dev shop makes a lot more sense. Now you have to find the right dev shop. It's not just any dev shop, because like I said, the majority of people don't have great experiences with devs. So it's one of the things that you really have to do it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you kind of view your dev shop as contributing to the broader adoption of Web3 technologies? Do you see dev shops essentially playing like a pivotal role in pushing forth this tech?
I do think so, because dev shops make it more accessible to, like I said, the bootstrap founder to build something in Web3. So it's not a space that's only open to VC funded projects. But I think we can do a better job in terms of not only building repetitive projects, because in the Web3 space, it's a lot of, NFT collections, tokens, coins, this and that, just very repetitive. We're really pushing to get out of our comfort zones and build things that are innovative. Because as a dev agency, you're usually looking to package right services to as productized as possible, because that just helps you margins, helps you numbers, helps you scale. But if there's one critique that I had, it would be to innovate more.
Yeah, I remember talking to this guy that runs a branding shop, and it was specifically branding for AI and Web3 startups, very well known. And he was talking about like Web3 has yet to fully cross the chasm of to be like absolutely essential. Like, what is the use case in which people are like, I need this in my life, versus like, this is a nice to have. And it's like, we need to focus more on that. Like, where is the need, like the ultimate like driver?
Yeah, we need the Instagram. We need the one big application that just is in mainstream media, mainstream lives every day.
Yeah, this is where I actually think, and I just did a video on this, is TON could come into play, because most people in and of themselves might not care that it's on Web3. Like the best user experiences, like people don't know that they're using Swift programming. That's a programming language for Apple. If anyone's unfamiliar, they don't know that they're using Swift. They don't care that they're using Swift, and there should be no marketing around like, hey, we're using Swift. That's probably how blockchain will have to be, is that the benefits are so high that it becomes like irrelevant as to what tech stack, and they're just using Web3 on the back end with no real knowledge of it. So I'm bullish on the Telegram integration. I'm wondering if more Web2 companies and Web3 companies will start to fuse as they see the benefits. So TBD on that. That's just my pure speculation. Of course, not investment advice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about where listeners can learn more about, my Web3 startup and kind of get involved with some of the projects. Let's say they have a project or they're a developer. Where can they learn more about you, your company, and what you guys are up to?
Yeah, the best way is to check out our website, myweb3startup.com. Within the website, not only have case studies projects that we've worked on that you can check out, big names like Reality Metaverse, Fits French, Farcana, Assassin's Creed, a lot of these established companies that have built great things in the Web3 space, or that are building great things in the Web3 space. But we also have a lot of resources, in case you are building a Web3 startup. Just articles that you can read through, talking about how you can hire a Web3 dev agency, what to look out for, or if you're building an in-house team, what to look out for, how you get your first customers in the Web3 a startup, how you build your MVP, how to decide how to build an MVP. That's also another important topic. So there's a lot of information there that you can consume that I would definitely recommend if you're a Web3 startup founder, and you're looking to build something in the space. And then also on my LinkedIn, Andre Costa, in LinkedIn, I post a lot of content there. Talk blockchain voice, was pretty much on the daily, and yeah, hopefully people find that insightful.
Absolutely. And I'll put all of those links in the description. Now, I have one final question because you've been in this blockchain development sphere for a while, and I know there are a lot of developers in the audience. If they're people working at Web2 companies like a Facebook or a Google, where would you recommend they try to get started, kind of dip their toes into the Web3 sphere? Because you're looking to hire, of course. Like, how do you find that most of these developers are like well trained?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Um, that's a really tough one. Um, I think it all depends on your greater vision or your greater objective. I've always felt, and this has happened as well with the devs that are on the team, that we got into the Web3 space sort of as like a pet project, something to do just for fun, a free time to learn. And that's when we each became very passionate about it and wanted to learn more and more and continue to build. So I think that has to be leading it. I would just check out projects that you think are cool, regardless of the blockchain they are in, that they're using, regardless of the tech stack that they're using, but really things that interest you. I see a lot of developers that really got into blockchain because of DeFi, because there's really some very cool stuff going on in the DeFi space. Very complex things to understand, but that developers are able to figure out, and I think it's going to make probably the largest impact of all from blockchain. That's my personal opinion. So I would lead with just reading, learning, testing things out, and then from there you can select what blockchain you're going to use mostly, or what you're going to dive into. If you're looking to just do what most people do, then obviously anything EVM is a way to go, or anything Rust is the way to go.
Absolutely. And I would also call out Farcaster because back in the day, many of these like Web 2 apps were a lot more programmable, but now they've shut down their APIs. If you're looking for kind of like a fresh place to start building, check out Farcaster. A lot of builders are there. Well, that is the end of the episode of the Building Web3 podcast. I really appreciate Andre coming on here, and to all the developers, founders, let's continue building in the space.